Welcome trainers to the Cutlass Pokemon Draft League. We've just concluded our big draft. Every player has 10 Pokemon, and it's time to introduce all the trainers and their teams. With me is my co-host Sean Houdini, also a player in the Draft League. We've got a big data analysis that Sean spent all of today and yesterday doing. We're going to go through the different teams, talk about some threats, some combos, some scary stuff, and what kind of stuff we need to be worried about when it comes to building our teams for this week ahead's matches. Any starting remarks before we dive in?
A lot of the teams are very strong.
Very scary.
Like it's I think there was a little bit of disparity in the previous season in terms of like, overall team power level. I think there's a little bit of disparity in this one, but I think for the most part, a lot of people picked a lot of really good like coverage Pokemon, and like there's a little bit of everybody's got like a little bit of tailwind or a little bit of speed control in some capacity.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a much more fierce competition, much more impactful. There's a lot of scary stuff that we have to deal with out there. But let's kick it off, and I've got a randomizer list of the trainers we're going to go through, and the first one is Terrastormer. So I'll quickly read out the list. I'll let you do some of the other ones so we can take turns. But Terra picked mostly Ghost Pokemon with Decidueye, Hisuian Zoroark, Skeledirge, Archaludon, Golurk, Meowstic, Poltegeist, Hisuian Lilligant, Overqwil, and Cinccino. Obviously committing to a theme. And I used the only photo of Terrastormer that I have, which Sean can't see, but if you look at the video later, you can have a giggle at that one. So what's some of the stuff that stands out to you here? I think Archaludon is the thing I'm the most scared of at the moment.
Yeah. So like Archaludon, obviously in a format where we don't have like an abundance of like things that set rain, means he can't really take super high advantage of Electroshot. But I feel like Body Press Iron Defense is going to be just as good.
Yeah, I think it's more likely to become a tank in this lineup because there's a lot of other sweepers on here. Does Meowstic Prankster learn Rain Dance? Is my first question.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I probably should have checked that.
Because that, and I think maybe Cinccino. And being able to set weather with an ability, with a move rather than ability, might have to be the way that Terra goes with this one if it's going to be an offensive. And same for Lilligant with Sun.
Yes.
Maybe get that Chlorophyll.
Yeah, the Chlorophyll is pretty good. I know Skeledirge can learn Sunny Day. But I think even then, like Lilligant, Hisuian Lilligant is pretty fast and pretty strong, so it can kind of like stand on its own two legs even without Sun. It's good Pokemon.
Or just brought in against Jadeabella, who has the Torkoal.
Yeah, exactly. You could just be like a flexible thing. Yeah, I mean it's a pretty straight line strategy, right? Like you've got a lot of Ghost Pokemon, so this is actually one of the teams with the highest immunity rating.
Yeah.
But it is kind of just normal in fight. Which is good. It's a team that's immune to Fake Out.
That's not bad, huh?
Which is not a bad thing, because there's a team on here that has 4 Fake Out users, so...
Yeah, okay.
3 guesses.
Taking a note to write down what my Ghost Terra typing is going to be on.
Yeah.
How many Covert Cloak I'm going to use. Yeah. Alright. Anything before we move on to the next one?
I mean, he's got Tailwind, he's got Screens, he's got Spikes if he wants them.
Intimidate on the Overqwil.
Yeah, Intimidate on the Overqwil.
Illusion on the Zoroark is going to be an interesting one as well, especially because it dodges Fake Out, and if you represent it as a Pokemon that can be faked out, that gives you a free turn, and that could be pretty insane.
Definitely, yeah.
So I think there's a lot of interesting tricks here. It's one of those things where there's a potential to have a high skill ceiling and like really outplay and like really pull off some impressive stuff. Terra has admitted to not being a high-skilled player, but there is a possibility of some of these things coming together. And that leads us to our next person, which is Loremother. So Loremother also self-report was kind of like, I'm just here to have a bit of fun, maybe see how it goes. I do like Pokemon. I'm not super confident with the competitive stuff. And then drafted a scary fucking team. So I'm like, okay, are we being played? Is this a shark?
So Lore was positioned in 8th in the draft, which, because we do a snake draft format, means that she got the first double up of the draft, which led to a very, very ferocious opening pick of Gothitelle Lapras.
Yeah.
Now, to those of you who aren't too familiar with it, Lapras has a move called Perish Song, which all Pokemon that hear it within 5 turns, or is it 3 turns?
Three turns.
They perish. They die. They faint. Now, Gothitelle has an ability called Shadow Tag, which prevents non-ghost types from leaving play, which means they're stuck in there to perish to the Perish Song, which is very gross. Considering one person in the draft has all the ghost Pokemon.
Yeah. So everyone else is suffering. The other interesting thing is that Muck's Power of Alchemy could switch in and take Shadow Tag as well to guarantee the KO and refresh the Perish Song on the Lapras and the Gothitelle, which is kind of also insane. So there's a lot of crazy utility here as well, and some good tanks like the Blissey, which could be a Chansey because we have the evolutionary line rule. You can take a previous evolution if you want. So Blissey being super specially defensive, Chansey being super defensive. Depending on how the team comes together, you can pick one. Chansey having the advantage of Eviolite. And like Hydrapple if you really wanted to play the Lil Apple instead.
I don't think you do. I think
Hydrapple is just better, yes. But
much better. This is a Pokemon that I was slightly sad to get taken. I did want it. But obviously, I'm not going to complain about my draft pool. I got pretty blessed.
We will see just how fucking scary your pool is later on.
My pool is pretty cool. But it's a very scary Pokemon. Like, it's one of the few Pokemon who you can throw an Assault Vest on, and it can still have access to some supporting moves.
Yeah.
Like, you can still use
Pollen Puff
even while you're in Assault Vest, so you can heal your allies, which is pretty crazy.
Pretty good.
Fickle Beam
keep that Gothitelle alive while you're trying to Shadow Tag.
Yeah, exactly. Fickle Beam also crazy strong.
Yeah.
And Syrup Bomb, of course, is pretty good as well.
Yeah. So that's a bit scary. There's a lot of good.
Radiant Meowscarada is pretty feral.
Yeah, get that Flower Trick, KO anything after the start. I think like it's a really strong lead, and if you can solve the lead, then Lore has really good mop up afterwards. Which is the thing that you then have to worry about. Or can lead with utility and get stuff like rocks or spikes or whatever down, and then rock the Shadow Tag when you're locked in with poison anyway, and then do stuff like that.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be a Perish Song team, but having the option there is nice as well. Meowscarada also very fairly, there's 3 Pokemon on this team that can learn Trick Room, which is Slowking, Galarian Slowking, Meowscarada, and Gothitelle could all learn Trick Room.
Yeah.
Which means this team has the potential to play a Trick Room mode, and given there's things like Lapras, Muck, Hydrapple, which doesn't have particularly high speed, Blissey, Vespiquen, all of these Pokemon don't have particularly high speed, so there could be a very scary Trick Room team.
Yeah. But also 2 Tailwinders.
That's true.
So there's a lot of versatility here.
Yeah. It's a very, very flexible team. This is I would rate this probably one of the highest teams.
Yeah, in versatility. Yeah, whereas I think yours may be the highest in just raw power.
I think so.
I think if we added all the BSTs together of your Pokemon, you've got the highest BST.
Oh, definitely. But it's close. There's a couple of 600s that I have, but you know, I did get most of the Infinity Stones. Yes.
Yeah, but Next up, we've actually got AV. So AV is another one of our not very confident drafters. He needed some convincing to get on board because he was like, oh, I don't want to be bad or whatever. And we're like, look, most of us are probably going to be doing bad. Draft is a tough format, so different to a lot of the other competitive formats. And I think he's walked away with a pretty cool team.
Yes.
There's lots of really good coverage. There's lots of good utility in here.
Yeah. There's some very good coverage. Blaziken especially has the move Upper Hand now.
Yeah.
Which is an anti-priority move. Which is
very
crazy.
Scary, especially with speed boost on. Yeah,
yes.
Non-Mega Blaziken is the one that has speed boost. It's pretty crazy. So it's like protect on the first one. I dodge every fake out. I'm now faster than everything. I didn't need Tailwind, and I can now start attacking things.
Yes.
Is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Also, 2 Tailwind setters in Braviary, Hisuian Braviary, and Scizor.
Yeah.
Also, like Technician Terra Steel bullet punches out of him is pretty feral
scary. Too. There's also Defog. If there's going to be if there's going to be
any Dragon Dances or anything like that.
Stats, rocks, man, I'm having a moment. But also, if I remember correctly, Defog targets a person and lowers their evasion as well as clears hazards. And you can target Malamar, who has Contrary, and any stat drops will become stat raises instead.
That's true. Yeah,
which could be fucking feral if he figures that one out. Please don't watch this video. I don't want you to learn these cool tricks from me. But that's something that's happened to me in the past with the Malamar that just got absolutely stacked with some insane things. And that's definitely an option.
You can definitely just run like Assault Burst Malamar with Superpower.
Superpower your way through.
Just click Superpower until everybody's dead.
Yeah.
And then like have this just pumping.
Because I think Breviary can learn Defog as well, actually.
Yeah, a couple of Defog.
And then we've got some nice hits foes Pokemon in Primarina and Ninetales with the Liquid Voice, Hyper Voice, I think it is, and Blizzard and Dazzling Gleam out of the Ninetales. Actually, does this one have? They both have Dazzling Gleam, I think.
Yeah.
Which can be pretty good. Hisuian Electro, which I think is the fastest base stat Pokemon in the game, is also very scary. So with or without Tailwind, there's a potential to win the Speed War.
Yes.
And also I think Malamar has Trick Room if you wanted to go into that, because Clodsire can be very slow.
It does have the option too, but when I did the evaluations of the teams, I based it on what was there, and this is not really a team that wants to play Trick Room. You have like Clodsire. Kingdra is like.
There's Imprison also, right? Like you could just go Superpower, Imprison, Trick Room. Like...
You can run that as tech, definitely, but then you can't really run the AFS. You probably end up running like Life Orb or something instead, which is okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, this also very threatening team. There's a lot of fast threats, a lot of hard hitting threats.
Yeah.
Excadrill is still very, very strong.
Yeah, having Elise with 2 different weather setters. Yep. And AV that has 2 different things that are twice as fast in those particular weathers, being sand and rain, means that you could possibly expect the silver bullet in those particular matchups, which is something that we mentioned earlier, the same with Terrastormer Jadeabella, but that's something that is very interesting in the draft, and it's kind of what happened in the last draft in the Elise's Battle League. Somebody else went full rain team as much as possible, and so I picked a Swift Swimmer early on. And I think these same kind of choices are because you can see the opponent's team being built as it happens, which is different from something like VGC, where you just kind of know what a Pokemon's build is generally going to be, what kind of things they might have on their team, and then you're trying to build something that beats everything. You have more opportunity to build specifically for a particular threat. And I think AV definitely is going to have a lot of advantage when it comes to this category, because you can see what's happening, build something to potentially beat that person.
Very much so.
And that leads us next into EBEZA.
Okay.
So EBEZA, confessedly, built the team based on vibes. There was a lot of, I picked this because it's my favorite. I picked this because of how it looks. But I still think there's some pretty good stuff in here.
Definitely. The ones that stand out to me are Blastoise. Really, really strong Pokemon.
Has just so many moves you wouldn't expect it to have. It has both Fake Out and Follow Me.
It also gets Life
and Life Too. So Blastoise could actually be one of the best supports in the format.
Definitely. Also, just being like a bulky boy is very relevant.
And Water is a pretty defensive typing also.
Yeah, it's not often that you get a Follow Me Pokemon that has as much stats as a Pokemon like Blastoise. So it's a very, very good Pokemon. And yeah, nothing to sniff at. Also, I did list it here. There is a nuclear bomb in EBEZA's team.
Yeah.
So Alolan Golem. This is a Pokemon that he picked because he likes it, and that's
because of the mustache specifically.
That's fair. I get it. I totally get it. That Pokemon is insane.
Yeah, it really is.
Galvanize is a crazy move. It turns Explosion into an electric type move. If you Terra Electric this thing, it gets 2 times stab bonus, plus the 50% Galvanize bonus. And it just deletes things. And there's not many things in the draft that are immune to electric type.
Yeah.
There's a couple, but not many.
I very conveniently, after this came around, picked myself a Volt Absorb for Pokemon.
So did I, yeah. I very luckily had Pawmot prior to this, so I was like, thank God. But that Pokemon is terrifying. And
I lost to it in the Blueberry DLC, where this guy goes, electric terrain, explosion, kill both your guys. And I'm like, I don't actually have anyone good left after this.
It's pretty fair. It does a lot of damage. Also, just Hisuian Arcanine, like crazy Pokemon, really strong. Just chuck a choice band on that boy, and
you can get to work. Arcanine was definitely one of my aces from the last one, Cantonian Arcanine. And as I understand it, this Arcanine is just as strong.
I would argue better.
Potentially better. Definitely the move pool is really crazy.
The offensive thing, definitely. I don't know if it's better at doing the supporting thing. It's less flexible, but the thing that it does better. Really well.
We listed this as an S tier Pokemon.
Definitely. I think it was top 5.
Then we've got Scrafty, an Intimidator. Most teams have picked out an Intimidator because we did have 5 or 6 available.
I believe so.
And then we've got got 2 of them. And we've got Alolan Exeggutor, which is also pretty strong.
Can set screens,
because most teams is going to be like an ace, maybe a second ace, some supports, and then other things that are kind of like fill. And you can kind of see this with EBEZA's team. I don't personally rate Minior, but if the Shell Smash gets off, then it can actually get to work. And then he's got a couple good supports and some good aces.
It does also have rocks and screens.
True.
So it can be a pretty good support.
True. So it will be interesting to see, because we might say, oh, this is a B tier Pokemon, this is a C tier Pokemon, but it's going to be fighting other B tier Pokemon and other C tier Pokemon. Exactly. So how you use it is going to make a big difference.
Yeah, our ratings are based on that Pokemon in a vacuum, not based on that Pokemon in connection with others.
Yeah.
So like a B tier Pokemon in a vacuum could be an S tier Pokemon given the right circumstances.
Yeah.
And I think Minior definitely in this sort of team, he's got a lot of fake. He's got like 3 fake outers. He's got 2 intimidators, the Dugtrio, the Golem. He's definitely got threats, and I would not be surprised to see Minior just set up some screens, set up some rocks, and, maybe drop a Meteor Beam or 2 out there.
I think the one thing missing is speed control.
Yeah, a little bit. He does have Trick Room on one guy.
Alolan Exeggutor.
Yeah.
I think that's is an option because there is a couple of slow people in here. But also you've got the Tangled Hair on the Dugtrio, which can also be a form of speed control. And being able to juggle stuff like the Fake Out can also give you the ability to just always be first.
Same with E-Speed on Hisuian Arcanine.
Yeah. So there is some options, but there won't be any prankster. There won't be any tailwinds. in those brackets. So he will have to be really mindful of those kinds of things to try and impact the speed war in a different way. But that brings us to our next person, Elise. Elise, who also has a relatively scary team.
Most of these teams are pretty scary.
That's true. I probably could just say that about everyone and be confident.
Yeah.
In it.
I mean, everybody's got good tools and good synergy.
Elise talked a little bit about her draft picks at the end of the live stream. And picked a lot of bulky boys, picked a lot of weather control, and just has like a lot of good kind of typing coverage for specific weaknesses in certain areas. Like a couple of things that avoid ground types, because she does have a couple of steel things. So she's got the Flygon, got the Charizard, which can avoid that. Has the Rain, which can mitigate fire weakness a little bit to the steel types, as well as Water Absorb in the Arachnid. So it feels like a really high tech team, and because we know that Elise does have a lot of experience with the team building, is able to put together a really strong team in that it's going to cover all weaknesses, going to have a lot of these cool things. Her drafting something that's going to give her the opportunity to really show this off and really be able to build something that is going to not just be like, okay, here's my ace and I'm now supporting an ace, which is kind of what I did. It's going to be like, okay, I have just all these tools, and whenever you show me a threat, I'm going to show you the answer I have pre-prepared for it. And I think that's what's going to make Elise probably finals contention.
Very much so. I think she has a lot of like very, very serious, like her threats are very bulky but also hit really hard. So like Arachnid's like a prime example. Like it's a bulky Pokemon. That water bubble, that's no joke. That increases your water type moves by 50%. And it's bulky. It's got access to Wide Guard, which I've listed a lot of Pokemon having things like Earthquake, Rock Slide, those sort of moves, which can be very devastating. Pokemon that have Wide Guard just prevent those from activating. I used Mian Shao in the last series to quite a great effect against those sort of moves.
Block that Hyper Voice, block that Heat Wave.
Yeah, Earthquake, Dazzling Gleam, all those sort of moves. So
Rock Slide, specifically here, because there is a few Pokemon weak to rocks in the Arachnid, in the Charizard, and the Wide Guard would do a lot of work there. Or you would have something like Metagross out, Magnezone out, and then using it to block the Earthquake. And so I think a lot of that stuff is pretty good. We've also got Tailwind on the Pelipper. And on Flygon. Okay, good. Charizard does not set Sun, because Charizard is not Mega Charizard. These are things I always have to remind myself. And when I look at the team, I see a Sand team plus Charizard. There's a lot of these people are just happy to be in there, and I think Charizard is an interesting flex pick because it gives a lot of type coverage. But can also just come in as a really good special sweeper, because there's a lot of good physical sweepers here. Except with maybe Superior, because Superior, contrary with the Leaf Storm, just like slowly charges up and then just starts killing you.
Very much so. The only thing I wonder is if the supports that she has next to this Superior are enough to sort of keep it alive, because she doesn't have that traditional like follow me support to go with the contrary sweeper.
That's
which
correct.
You sort of keep it off for like one turn and then you just lose control.
Is there an ally switch Pokemon?
No,
because I don't think so
these
either.
Are moves that I looked for. There is one ally switch or two ally switch Pokemon. I think I got them both.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's probably the only thing. If like, yeah, Superior is kind of bulky, but at the same time, a really strong fire move just goes into this and it's gone.
Yeah. That could have also been a good reason to pick Charizard.
That's true. It does block that. You also have double intimidate, so you're trying to like prevent physical fire going in. But if there's like a special effect, like a super effective flamethrower or something goes into this Superior, he's gone.
Yeah.
Maybe
same with Magnezone, same with Metagross potentially. At least Sand coming out of T-Tar will help boost the special defense. And an A-Vest plus special defense boost on a Metagross means it's fucking never going to die to a flamethrower or a heat wave.
That's true. She also does have Pelipper to help cover that
that fire weakness.
As well. So those are things to worry about, like if your solution is to bring some fire types, that's okay, but you got to worry about that rain.
Yeah.
Because if it's raining, your fire's not going to do so much damage.
Because pretty much just like I said at the open, anytime we can raise a problem of something that she might need to deal with,
she has an answer for
there's an answer in the draft. Like, she's holding it already. So all it comes to is just giving her the opportunity to build a team, see what her opponent's playing, and then beat them, basically. And then next up is you. So let's talk a little bit about the team that you drafted.
Yeah, what can I say about this hodgepodge of bad...
Do you want to read them out for us first?
Alright, I have Incineroar, Rillaboom, Dondozo, Pawmot, Farigiraf, Ursaluna Bloodmoon, Scyther, Haxorus, Sneasler, and Rabscar.
Yeah.
Now that is my team. That is not the top 10 most recently played VGC Pokemon.
That's correct.
Just so everybody's clear.
And also, you drafted Kleavor, but through the evolutionary law, have selected Scyther.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good choice because that gives you a bit more flexibility in what you were sort of missing.
A little bit, yeah. I was sort of lacking a very good Tailwind Pokemon. And Scyther has a lot of natural speed and can be bulky if you just put an Eviolite on it. And yeah, like, it has Defog, it has T-Wind, it has some weather setting moves if I need to...
U-turn and knock off.
Those moves too.
It's got some good utility on it. Stab U-turn, which
every
time you use U-turn, it's never stab, except Scyther. But yeah, we've got some really big, scary things. Incineroar was Wolf Glick's choice for best fire Pokemon ever.
I agree. He real good.
He real good. And then Rillaboom, who's also really insane with the grass terrain. The Grassy Glide, really bulky. It does have a pretty high attack stat. Dondozo, which has been a monster in VGC for quite some time, does not have the Tatsugiri pairing, but I don't think it's necessary. And also something I called out during the draft, you've got the only 2 Revival Blessing Pokemon.
Yes.
So you could potentially keep one, like if you have an ace and they struggle to kill it and it takes forever, you have 2 different chances to bring that guy back from the dead.
Yeah, so
which is also very
scary.
scary.
Dondozo is very bulky and usually takes a lot of investment to kill. So Revival Blessing him, if he's got like leftovers and just a lot of HP, usually is pretty brutal. So yeah. Like, also Pawmot, just as a Pokemon, is really gross. He has Fake Out, he has Nuzzle, Revival Blessing, he can learn Mach Punch, Close Combat.
And that Volt Absorb.
And has Volt Absorb, For Farigiraf, I'm immune to Fake Outs. I can set Tailwind, Trick Room pretty easily, Screens, Ally Switch. So I have the capability to play a very strong Trick Room team as well.
Yeah, that was kind of what I thought you were going towards, especially because Kleavor is relatively slow. But you switching off the Kleavor into the Scyther allows you to potentially play in the Tailwind rather than having to fight it with the Trick Room.
Exactly.
Which is why I think that's a good choice.
Well, like, the thing is there are some players who have the ability to play Trick Room as well. And I'm unsure, at the time when I was drafting, I was unsure if their Trick Room strategies would be better than mine.
Yeah.
Or what the speed tiers were. I didn't have all that written down. So I was kind of just like, I'll take this as an option so that if I need to play Tailwind, I can.
You can. The other thing is I'm pretty confident Rabscar also learns Trick Room.
It does. Yeah, it's listed there.
So you've got some consistent speed control. You've got some big bruisers. You've got the Sneasler so that you can swip Sneasler in to get rid of something like Toxic Spikes if someone's solution to the bulky boys is to try and run Stall or Attrition. As you've just got a lot of coverage for a lot of different problems.
Haxorus is kind of just a very generic one direction, like, just chuck him in. But was also, funnily enough, one of the very few dragon types in the set. There's a lot of fairies, but there's only, I think, 2, maybe 3 dragons. 4. There's 4 dragons total. Altaria, Flygon, Arcaladon, and Haxorus.
Oh, they all got picked. Sorry, Altaria did not get picked.
Altaria
The other three got picked.
But yeah, the other three did.
Interesting.
Not too surprised Altaria didn't get picked, but...
I mean, it does Tailwind. It does Perish Storm.
Yeah, I mean, this is a better option. For
But
both
yeah.
of those things.
But yeah, alright. Any other secrets you wish to divulge before we move on?
No, I'm good. I'll keep the rest of my secrets for the first week, I think.
Alright, so next up is Jadeabella. So in Elise's Battle League, the one that we did before this, Elise, Sean, myself, Jadeabella with the top 4. And in the original draft, Jadeabella picked a lot of stuff that we were like, oh, okay, this is interesting, this is kind of goofy, this is not what I would pick, this is not the S tier thing in the pool. And she made top 4 quite convincingly. She kicked my ass in the rounds. And so now when she's picking this stuff and she's like, I want this one because it's a funky little guy, I'm like, okay, I trust everything you have to say about this. Because I cannot be a critic anymore.
I mean, her first couple of picks were very, very good.
Yeah.
Like Porygon, very, very strong. In this instance,
Porygon is a unique utility Pokemon. If you wanted the Porygon 2, you go to the Eviolite, you have the Trick Room. Porygon Z is a bit more of a sweeper, as I understand it.
You want to use usually adaptability rather than download.
Yeah.
But yeah, good Pokemon. It's got pretty middling coverage, but Tri-Beam, I think is
Tri-Attack, the signature move.
Tri-Attack, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pretty good move.
It's like, pretty good. Really high chance of status.
Well.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Comfy, one of the best supports in the game.
Yeah. It has screens, it's got Tailwind, it's got Trick Room, it's got Polypuff, it's got everything.
Priority plus on all of the healing moves, so you can use your Pollen Puff at extra speed, which can be insane against some stuff like Malamar, which is 4x weak to bug. If you can prio, like, first of all, you resist superpower. Second of all, you get to +1 speed Pollen Puff into it, which could potentially be a one-hit KO.
Yes.
And then being able to heal your guys really fast, being able to do all that kind of stuff is kind of scary. But we've also got some interesting speed options here. We've got the Slowbro, which I believe can set Trick Room. Torkoal, which is the best Trick Room Pokemon in the draft format, as I believe it has the lowest speed stat and the greatest special attack output. But you could just use Torkoal as a weather setter to set up the Blossom's Chlorophyll to get that speed boost as well. And then there's just like a lot of other cool things. Like, again, like this is another team that's picked a few things around the same time to deal with Alolan Golem, which is the Motor Drive and the Electrifier, and the Swampert, which is a water type, but also a ground type, which is immune to electric. We've also got Weird Deer. So Jadeabella's team, interestingly to me, is the one where she has the most options to change things from the base draft. Picking the different Porygon, picking something out of the Rotom catalog, and going Weird Deer or Stantler. Both of which are good, but both of which are good differently.
Yeah. I think Weird Deer prevents more of a Weird Deer prevents more of a physical threat, like Psy Shield Smash or Psy Shield Bash. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's Bash. Yeah.
Is not an irrelevant move. And like just having that little bit of increase in stats is also pretty relevant. Alternatively, you can just run Stantler with
Eviolite,
same ability,
Intimidate.
Eviolite.
Yeah.
So
there's also a trick that I've seen a Stantler use before, which is I think Entrainment, where you teach the opponent Pokemon your ability, which gives them Intimidate, and you can use that to set off your Contrary or your Defiant or whatever. We don't have something with Defiant here, but if you have something that doesn't care about its attack stat, like a Special Sweeper, you can continue to use Entrainment multiple times on even your ally to have Intimidate proc multiple times. So there's a lot of interesting stuff here where, again, there's like a lot of tech, and like depending on which Rotom is selected, I think maybe Frost is the best one because there is no Ice type on this team. We've already got a water type in Swampert. We've already got a grass type. It could be maybe Fan, actually, also.
I think Rotom Heat is the superior one for this particular team.
We do already have the Torkoal, But Heat has the advantage of being much faster.
Exactly. That's the difference, right? Like, you could also run Rotom Wash, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think Rotom Heat is better here because it lets you play Torkoal as not your sole fire type.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, there's a lot of good grass Pokemon, like Rillaboom, perfect example, has Earth Power.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately, just deletes Torkoal.
It does do that.
Even through Assault Vest.
Yeah.
Which is pretty feral.
Yeah.
So having another fire type that can sort of deal with those fast, pesky grass type Pokemon, probably not a terrible idea.
Yeah, and especially because it's got the Levitate, which will cover for that ground type weakness of the Rotom Heat, which is pretty good. It
just represents a good switch.
Yeah. We've also got Alchemy, which is one of the better buff supports with Decorate. We could potentially set up one of your guys to sweep, which could be the Porygon. I think Porygon is a good target for that, but I also think Electivire is a good target for that as well.
Yeah, could also be Swampert.
Like, also Swampert.
The electric
True.
Is no joke. Surface out of that Pokemon's pretty strong.
Yeah.
It also gets Rock Slide, Icy Wind, Earthquake. Can also learn Flip Turn now, which is pretty relevant. And it has Knockoff. So it's got a good selection of coverage moves and utility moves. It's also pretty bulky. I think, yeah, I mean, Icy Wind's probably not the most relevant. If you're playing it more utility, maybe. Give you a little bit of, like, you know, non-Tailwind, non-T-Wave speed control. True. Pretty good team, all in all.
I agree. I think there's a lot of stuff individually I think is going to be very strong. So I am curious to see how all these things are going to come together.
Definitely.
Whereas in the last draft, JadeyB really went in on the Ninetales in a Sun team and had the Chlorophyll on Leave Uni. So I wonder if that's going to be a similar core here, even though that was late picked. Whereas you have other things like you could just have the Comfy as a support that's going to keep Porygon alive while Porygon does the sweeping. Same goes for Swampert, you know. So I think there's a lot of cool options here as well. It's a very versatile team.
Yeah. Also, interestingly enough, I remember Blossom has Weather Ball. So in Sun, she has a special fire type move, which is pretty nice.
Pretty good. But also against some of the other teams, potentially Weather Ball becomes a water type move against the Pelipper. So that could be really relevant. We could be seeing a bit of that come out. But that means it's time for the last person, which, if you've been following along, is me. We hadn't done me yet. I realized the order upon which I put this in was 2 people out of order and then alphabetically after that. So the people that would have been after me were in front because of how it came together. But this is the team that I picked. I had really only planned on Whimsicott Slacking coming into the draft. Upon reflection, I realized Slacking really wasn't a high priority pick. I probably could have gotten it later on and picked up some other goofy stuff. But I was like, okay, this is the gimmick I want to play around, which is, I mentioned this in the live stream, but Whimsicott, which has Prankster, which lets you do status moves at +1 priority, and the move Worry Seed, which will replace a Pokemon's ability with with Insomnia, which stops you from being able to fall asleep, which removes Slacking's Truant very quickly and allows you to start sweeping, which can be really strong because Slacking is a huge BST, the downside being the ability. So if you can deal with the ability, then you can use him free of downside. And then I picked up Hisuian Gudra, which is a huge wall, and covers for a few things of my team, fortunately. Talonflame, with Talonflame and Whimsicott, I have 2 different Tailwinders, both at priority +1 speed, which can be very, very strong for me. I picked the Magmortar, but with the Evolutionary Clause, I've decided for it to be Magmar. We saw a build recently come out in the VGC with Magmar, Flame Body, Follow Me, which is probably around where I'm going to be playing along. But also gives me something like Heat Wave or... so I can be using a special fire type move out of that. I picked up Empoleon. I actually played a Randubs recently, where I played against an Empoleon and I intimidated it like a moron. And with competitive, it got a big special attack boost and then blew up my team. competitive. It's a special, it's a special sweeper. I'm pretty sure. And I'm like, hang on a minute. Pretty much every person has Intimidate. And I'm going to be able to hopefully capitalize on that. And the typing is actually pretty relevant. Like, I've got 2 steel typings that have a really nice secondary type. Steel water, pretty defensive. Okay. And then steel dragon typing in the Hisui and Guja is going to make both of them relatively tough to kill. I picked up the Venusaur because I can potentially prankster Sunny Day on the Whimsicott to get the chlorophyll that I need. But also, Venusaur is like a really tanky support Pokemon.
Yes.
Where I can use the different powder moves, or I can
that sort of stuff
set up a wall or something if I want.
Also, it's very good at coverage in like Earth Power, Sludge Bomb.
Yeah, I wanted him more as a poison type than I wanted him as a grass type. So which is kind of funny. Like, looking at my team, a lot of the Pokemon that I have picked for the typing that they are is really off. Like, Whimsicott is a grass type, is not ever going to do grass type stuff. Talonflame is a fire type. It's probably for the most part going to be doing flying type stuff.
Sure, probably Brave Bird more
than anything else, right?
Anything.
Yeah. Then I have Greninja. This is like a sleeper pick coming really in late, where he's going to be a really good physical sweeper, where either I can Protean, which yes has been nerfed, so I can't do tricks like using spikes to avoid an electric type move whenever I need to. I have to pick one and commit to it. But also has some really strong moves like the Water Shuriken, and as a dark type, obviously gets some advantages there. I picked Gramble really late. I was really struggling to pick out what Intimidator I wanted, and I spent a few rounds waiting. The Crocodile got picked by Elise, and Overcool got picked by Terrastormer. I was leaning towards Overcool, but because I already had the Poison type in the Venusaur, I ended up with the Gramble, because that immunity to Dragon might become relevant, because I'm scared of Archaludon. And then in the last one, Lantern with the Volt Absorb, because in the same way, Archaludon either is going to present a threat to me in Body Press, a fighting type move, which I have the Fairy to resist for, or the Bolt. What is the big Bolt called? Electro-Shot, which I'll have the Volt Absorb for. So I tried to build out a lot of utility around my combo core of Whimsicott Slacking. And I think I've got just like an above average team. I don't think my team is insane. There's other teams in here that I would trade for. But I think it gives me some versatility, and I've picked Pokemon that I am familiar with as well from actually playing competitively, that I will be able to use that hopefully to my advantage.
Very good.
But that's all our trainers. Hopefully this has been a cool introduction for you. If you want to go and watch the entire draft, we do have the video of the entire draft where you can see people making their picks and talking about the choices that they made and stuff like that. Because the goal is these people are all content creators or content creator adjacent, making stuff in some way. And we're all working together to be able to try and make a cool event that you can follow along. So if you've got someone that you think they have a cool team, you want to see them win, go and check them out. We'll have everyone's information in the description. You can go and check them out. You can follow along and cheer for what team you want to win. Every Saturday we're going to be having the matches, and everything will be uploaded to YouTube, so you can follow along on YouTube if you don't want to see it on Twitch. But do go and have a look and tell us what you think. Who do you think has the scariest team? Do you actually think that Sean's drafted the easy winning pick, or do you think somebody else has a good shot? Let us know. I'm curious to know what you think, and hopefully we'll see you soon in the matches.
See you in week 1.
Alright, we should be good.